Go live. It's Monday, November 7th, 2022. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about the POSSE model. Publish on your own site, syndicate everywhere.
Elsewhere.
Oh, I guess it is elsewhere.
Everywhere. Just elsewhere.
Yeah. I say I should go for everywhere.
Good luck trying to get everywhere. That's a lot of work.
It's aspirational. It's a should, not a must in the RFC. Okay. I guess DST and Powerball are two good opening bits.
No Powerballs.
Yeah. So there is an old, an ancient, and really bad logical fallacy. It's sort of like a very specific and famous argument that is objectively wrong and easily defeated, but it is particularly popular in Christian circles, and that is Pascal's wager. If you're unfamiliar with Pascal's wager, the idea is that either you in your life you have to bet, and your bet is, does the Christian God exist or not? If you bet yes and you're right, infinite reward. You know, you go to heaven or whatever. You bet yes, no, well, you only lose a little bit. You just die, nothing. But if you bet no, and you're
right. So right. So
oh, Scott, you can't hold it in. Anyone with even a small amount of logic immediately sees why Pascal's wager is a terrible logic experiment. It is wrong from like 20 different perspectives. It is disproven by a gentle grunt of anyone who knows anything about anything.
It's like choosing to believe it and being wrong. It's like, oh, you didn't lose much. What do you mean? I just spent my whole life praying and obeying these nonsense rules. It's a huge cost.
Yep.
It's a huge cost, not a small cost.
But even worse, and I think Homer said it best in, I think, season 4 of The Simpsons. I'll paraphrase him. He said something like, and what if we worship the wrong God? Aren't we just making the real God angrier and angrier every day? But Powerball, the lottery, right now, is at a terrifying amount of money.
It is the biggest it's ever been. It is the jackpot is $1.9 billion. Obviously, most places the taxes will be half, and if anyone else wins, well, half again.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, $1 billion.
Yep.
We're going to $1 billion, right? How many billionaires are on Earth? How many billionaires?
More than you'd think, but not that many.
The number that should exist is 0.
Of course.
The number that do exist is about 1,000, right? So we're going to take at random, complete random, right? Somebody who A, is okay gambling, right? That's something that, right?
Yep.
B, is in the United States, or at least located in the somewhere that they can buy a Powerball ticket, not Utah, Nevada. I don't think they don't sell them there.
Yeah, there's like 4 states that don't allow it.
Yeah. Someone who was basically within the past few days in a place where a Powerball ticket was for sale, had $2, chose to buy it. One of those people will be randomly selected to become one of the 1,000 wealthiest, most powerful people on the face of the planet based on no merit or anything.
Now, that is
who paid $2 will be chipping in to help that person out.
Now, to make a modern Pascal's wager, that is basically, for all intents and purposes in a capitalist hell world, an infinite reward. Like, that is enough money, even after taxes, for someone who gives a shit to change the world. Like, right, that is...
We could all get lucky, right? If the person who wins it happens to be a person like me, right, who would try to fuck the world in a good way, make things better, or at least succeed or fail.
You're gonna crack the world's shell, and you're gonna hope that there's something good in there.
Right, not just someone who's gonna live on a beach or in a Ferrari. I mean, I'd probably do those things too, but like not just only do those things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right? If I won, like I'm gonna try to change the world, but I'm also going to make sure I'm very comfortable while I do so. Like comfort can be had for mere millions.
Right. Hopefully it won't be a person who squanders it. It's easy to, even that a ludicrous amount of money, it is easy to squander it all quickly.
Yep.
Right?
Way easier than Brewster's Millions might have implied to those of you who even know what that is.
Yep. I mean, buy something large and it fails, right?
Buy an NFT.
Be too generous with other people, and then your whole family loots you, and then that's it. Yeah.
Though I did learn something recently. I forget where it was. It might have been like the Atlantic, but Fark linked to it. It was a long article talking about the myth that most lottery winners end up destitute and ruined and destroyed.
They don't have destitute, but a lot of them, don't manage the money as well as they could and don't live a life of luxury as high as they could have lived.
Yeah, but a long form analysis showed that most lottery winners, big jackpots, actually do just fine and do just retire and live a great life. But the few who go out in a blaze of glory are the ones that everybody knows about and the media will talk about when they go out in their blaze of glory.
See, I said this elsewhere, but I want to say the person who is the luckiest person right now, right, is not the person who buys a Powerball ticket and has a 1 out of 200 million something chance of winning, right?
Yep.
It is the person who is a lawyer, who is an expert on taking care of people who won the lottery, because the odds are, when someone wins this, which will eventually happen, if not today, then soon, is going to call one of those few lawyers who is an expert on handling people who win the lottery.
Or they aren't, in which case, bring the popcorn.
If it's the kind of person who is not going to call one of those lawyers, the billion will be squandered.
Yeah.
Right?
So here is a modern Powerball Pascal's wager.
If I won, I would be calling one of those people before I called any friend or family.
Yep. I would not type the words into anything, nor would I say it out loud, because at that point, you're in extreme danger.
Yep, I would call one of those lawyers, make sure it's them, not tell them anything till I visited them in person.
Yep.
Get their advice before I even started to fill out a claim form.
To give you non-Americans of the extent of this danger, to be clear, lottery tickets in the U.S., and the Powerball specifically is one that falls under this category, are bearer instruments, meaning the law says whoever fucking has it right now is the lawful owner of it unless you can prove it was specifically stolen.
Yep.
So, Die Hard? Bearer bonds? Yeah, there's a reason there aren't a lot of bearer instruments left on Earth, because they can be stolen.
Yep.
So, my new Pascal's wager. If the reward is infinite and the risk to you is $2 American, it is unlikely that those $2 will round up to any meaningful change in your life compared to even a 1 in 200 million chance of becoming one of the richest people on Earth. So I bought some Powerball tickets. I doubt I'll ever.
With that.
Yeah. I believe you.
I bought one last time. I think we're good.
I got a couple this time, just in case. The odds are. You know what? The risk calculus is better than putting that money on red at a blackjack table at a roulette table.
If you think about it this way, right? It costs $2, right? It's the jackpot is 1.9 billion, right? And it's a 1 out of 200 million something chance of winning.
Yep.
So there might be split winners or something, or whatever. But
in fact, the odds of a split winner are higher because more people are buying tickets. So
more people are buying.
That is why nobody has ever bought all
numbers.
That is why nobody will buy all the numbers, because it won't work out if anyone else wins.
Yeah, but even if you bought all the numbers, right? If you just divide the jackpot by 200 million, it comes out to like 9.5, like $10.
Yeah.
So, that doesn't mean that you spend $2, you're probably gonna get 0, not 10. But
yeah,
it's in the realm where even though the odds of winning are so low, when the reward becomes high enough, it starts to actually make sense mathematically, sort of.
Yep. That said,
do not gamble.
That said, lotteries should be banned. We could take that money and pool it in a much more effective way, and it is called taxes.
Right. This thing that is happening, right? Randomly giving $1 billion to, likely half of it to the government, which is fine, right? Taxes.
Yep.
But giving the other $1 billion to a person at random, that is not something that should ever happen in a functioning society. Randomly giving that amount of wealth to a single individual.
At least randomly is better than giving it specifically to a conservative.
Sure, but it might be a conservative person, and then what?
Yep.
It's just saying, this is not a thing that should be happening at all.
Yeah, imagine locking a bunch of people in a room and randomly one of them will be handed a knife, and that's it. That's the whole game. You're locked in the room with them. One person gets a knife.
We're locked in a country, and one of these people will be given $1 billion.
And also, daylight saving time just happened, and the problem is half our government actually did pass a bill to do the correct thing of go to daylight saving time,
well,
stay there.
Right. Well, they did by accident.
Yeah.
Someone was literally not paying attention, and that's how it snuck through.
The other half of our government won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because, for reasons that we don't have time to get into, because they're actually hard to understand, and it's not like we understand them. Like it's a complicated space. America is divided about 50-50 on what to do about daylight saving time. Weirdly, like a bunch of Americans really like the current system and don't want to change. And
it's the old sicko sign story.
And it doesn't even line up with our political parties at all. Like it is almost a random distribution. So it'll never happen because that's the kind of issue that our current government is incapable of talking about. But there is news. There's only one news today because it's the biggest news. Twitter is not technically dead yet, but goddamn is it moving faster than even I thought it would move toward actually dying for real.
Yep. After all the bullshit back and forth with, Muskface we talked about all this time.
Yep.
In the end, well, there might still not be the end, but there might be more developments in the legal front.
Yeah, but right now, as Scott said eloquently before we started the show, most of the developments since this dipshit bought Twitter have been that dipshit did something even worse than the last thing he did, and there are like 3 of those stories per day, so we're not going to catalog them all.
Right. So sometime last week, he actually had to go through with it and bought Twitter for reals. And there are so many individual addendums onto that of like what happened since. Firing people, laying off people en masse, laying off people but not giving the required 60, 90 days notice is required by some states.
Yep.
Breaking laws, firing executives who have golden parachutes and not,
losing the only person Twitter had that any advertisers trusted during an unrelated downturn in ad buying globally.
Yeah, advertisers leaving Twitter on purpose, people leaving Twitter, check the validation verified system changing randomly, it's just nonstop of, it's like as soon as he bought it, it's like every day something else on Twitter fucks the fuck up, right? If you didn't, already understand how much of just
Yep.
Elon Musk is not, people make him out to be like some sort of fucking genius.
Well, you know what? He effectively won a lottery because a lot of YouTube stardom, a lot of tech bros, especially white male ones, the reason they have so much money is because they happened to work at the company that hit it big by accident. Do you know how many companies tried to build PayPal? Do you know how many companies tried to build Amazon?
Okay, so hold on. So first of all, right, Elon Musk did just happen to be at PayPal, and right, but that's not why he's wealthy.
His family.
His family owns emerald mines, right? So even if he sat right, there are other people whose parents own diamond mines that you don't know about, and they're living a filthy, rich, luxurious life, and they just keep their mouth shut and don't try to fuck with the world. They're just evil on their own, quietly, right? This is just one asshole who had to be loud, evil, and stupid.
Yep.
He's not like some fucking genius, right? It's like, you compare him to like Lex Luthor from comic books, which is somewhat apt, but Lex Luthor canonically in the DC universe has the highest IQ of basically anyone in the entire universe, human or otherwise.
Yep.
Right? He's like a mega genius. He's just got other flaws like sociopathy,
narcissism,
obsession with killing Superman, etc. Yep. Right? Inferiority complex to Superman, all kinds of other emotional issues.
Mostly related to Superman.
Right, yeah, mostly.
Which, funnily enough, gets down to what's wrong.
He can invent things. Elon Musk can't invent anything. All he can do is hire someone to build a rocket. He wouldn't know the top from the bottom if it was up to him.
He's basically got some of the power of a Lex Luthor, but none of the capabilities of a Lex Luthor.
Right. He's just some bro. Not if you went to a college and just grabbed some bro from a frat who knew how to had okay computer knowledge, like that's you swapped him for Elon Musk, it'd be the same fucking thing. It's just some guy, right?
Yep.
Who had, is he a moron? It's like, well, in some ways, yes, but it's like he has about the same education we do, right? We're not geniuses, or we can't win a fucking Nobel Prize medal or anything, right? So it's like, but he's in charge of Twitter, and unlike, say, SpaceX, right? Or he's got his hand on the wheel of Twitter, and he's crashing it.
Doesn't just have his hand on the wheel. He is like fucking with the engine himself while it's driving down the highway.
Yep.
I mean, dude is arguing with Stephen King, like, on Twitter about the $8 that Stephen King is like, I'm not going to pay you. I'm just going to leave. And he's trying to argue with Stephen King like, no, you won't. Like, what? Who is even like
funny
this?
That one of the wealthiest people, right? Elon Musk has, many billions, much more than this lottery.
Yep.
Right? Why does he need $8?
Yeah, look, if I was a multi-billionaire, the one thing I would not be doing is personally arguing with dipshits online. Like, that is the one thing you do not do.
Who has time for that? If I won the lottery, you would probably never hear from me again. Why would I spend my time podcasting?
Yeah, half my time, I'd be running the board of like whatever charity I built to try to save the world. The other half of the time, I would be para-ski sail jumping in the Alps.
Well, I wouldn't be doing that because that would be the end of the enjoyment of my $1 billion.
Get good.
I'd be fucking, buying the government and turning it to the left. If I bought Twitter, you know what I'd do? I'd say, it's free, Nazis are banned, no ads for anyone, etc.
I'm going to run it. You know what? I'd convert it to a public benefit company.
He already converted to a private company. It's not public anymore, so he can do that now.
He could literally do anything.
Yeah, he could say no more ads. We're not even going to try to make money. We're just going to make Twitter the best thing ever. Right.
Except what he seems to be doing with it right now, as of the news I just saw scrolling from my feed, he's actively trying to get Republicans elected in our midterms tomorrow.
Yeah, well, he's a bad person.
Yep. So I guess the threads, because this conversation that people are having is so widespread outside of my office. There's a chill homeless dude, like I know him, but he hangs out around our office, and there's a cop who hangs out there. I overheard while I was waiting for a traffic light to change today, the two of them talking about what they're going to do now that Twitter is dead. Like, I could not make this up. That is the conversation they were having. And the guy was like, all my friends...
It's hard to believe the cop and the homeless person were talking amicably.
This was not a white cop.
About anything.
This was not a white cop. This cop is...
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying this is a good cop, but this is not a white cop.
Anyway.
But I overheard this conversation. Like, my mom was messaging me like, yeah, what should I use? Because Twitter's dead. Like, I can't use it anymore. Yeah. Should I go to Mastodon or co-host or whatever? But co-host is just a bunch of people all made accounts, but no one's posted anything as far as I can see.
I didn't post anything.
I posted one post.
Accounts at places to ensure that I have the account with my name on it. I'm not using any place until I know it's the place.
So the threads I can see that are sort of relevant to this conversation is one, the what is going to happen to the company, which basically he's doing the inverse of basic management. Like, dude fired everybody to the point that I don't know how the company will continue to operate.
I think it's basically, I don't think it'll disappear and die. It's too big and it still has too many people using it. Probably some people aren't even aware or care about what's going on. But I think it'll just recede like many other social networks have, where it still, platforms have, where it still exists, but it has less users, less like Craigslist is still out there, even though it's been gutted. LiveJournal's still out there. Tumblr is still out there. People are going to Tumblr.
Yep.
In fact,
but there's a second question around the financial health of the company, in that it costs a lot.
Private, so
but it costs a lot to run it, and you can't really just take your personal money and pump it in to keep it afloat. He would run out of money eventually, considering he financed this with debt.
You want to hear a really dark prediction here, right?
I've heard a few.
It is public information, right, that he was heavily financed by the Saudi Arabians.
And so there's relatively breaking news that the U.S. government is looking into the national security implications of that.
Indeed, but the Saudi Arabians, are known for using, violence on people.
Yep.
If he beat billionaire of the world or not, if he fails if they don't do well financially on the Twitter,
that is
who knows what could happen.
That is not the darkest thing I have heard among capital markets people I know, surprisingly.
Wow. That's as dark as my brain goes.
Yeah, there's some darker things about his
I want that to happen. I'm just saying.
his personal life is in shambles, independent of all this.
Well, that was always been the case.
Yep. So, but there's a thread there of it might run out of operating capital because it was never running at a profit. Like, it was always running at a loss, but it was making a lot of money from advertising, and it appears
you just have right. It's like if you're a startup, you have your money from investors, the VC people, and then you have to get more rounds when you run out, right?
Yep.
That's your flow: is investment, spend it, until revenues, right? And even if you're not profiting, the revenues can come in and you can spend them, and you have this cash flow.
Yep.
You can operate by spending the cash that people give you to buy your product, and you can pay your employees and you can buy stuff, even though the overall treasury is slowly shrinking. You can just keep operating because there is fuel coming into the tank that will get burned, right? It just might be burning it faster than it comes in, but eventually that stops working, but it still gives you runway, right?
Yep.
So
but
Twitter doesn't have investors really. It was public and is now private, so there's no cash flow coming from there. And if investors pull out, it's like, yes, they heavily decreased operating costs by laying off so many people, but they could, run out of fuel.
Yep, especially considering we know huge numbers of advertisers have quit. Now, they probably don't care that much about like all the things he's fucked up yet.
Well, and advertisers who have stayed might see that there's once the numbers have to, it's like he doesn't have to reveal any numbers publicly because they're not public anymore.
Yep.
But advertisers are going to want to see proof, right? That, user registrations are up or how many.
But there's a worse factor right now. So remember the news we talked about the other day? Google had the first drop in advertising revenue in the history of Google.
And that was Google, who doesn't have some random CEO suddenly at the wheel driving into a wall.
Advertising buys on digital inventory are down across the board, and companies are less trustful or less credulous of the data they get from those companies. So they're basically looking for
numbers go down, right? And especially if they come from him, they're not trusted numbers. The advertisers that stay are going to want to pay less, and they're going to buy less if they stay at all.
And the ones that leave, they're looking for any excuse to cut their advertising budgets because of the current economic climate. Musk handed them an excuse to just say, well, cut it to zero. And then they can go to their bosses and say, yeah, I just saved us $15 million a year. What'd you give up? Nothing.
Nothing is right.
So Twitter as a company might just collapse entirely. Independently of that, there's a whole bunch
of situation where once it's small enough, someone else buys it low, like the pinboard guy bought Delicious.
Yeah, I would love to buy Twitter, but maybe if I win the Powerball.
Too high for you to buy it.
If I win that Powerball.
If you win the Powerball, you could buy it right now.
Yeah, I would wait a little bit. I feel like that train company, it's ready for some shorts.
As you would wait for the last train to rust and then jump. Yeah, there's no reason to do it now because it's probably still too high, but
Twitter's got like 4 2 trains, but we are fast approaching the rust. So there's also the threat of people who use Twitter as a source of journalism. A lot of people go there to find out about the news. And there's really nothing normal people will use that replaces that.
Well, I think normal people don't even use Twitter. Normal people use other newspapers and TV. And
you'd be shocked. Pretty much
Twitter.
Based on the data I was looking up over the last week, because I've been following the whole downfall of Twitter. If you discount really old people and extremely conservative people, a scary percentage of Americans go to like Google News or Twitter or places like that, or Facebook.
TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok less so, but it's self-reported data mostly, so why MMV on that? But the journalists are actually starting to leave the platform, which doesn't bode well. There's people who use it as a social network, and they're all going to Mastodon. Like, the people who care enough to leave, that seems to be the primary destination because it's the closest to what they think Twitter is.
Well, it's because it's the largest thing that exists already.
Yep. Like, I looked, and a lot of the people I follow on Twitter who made Mastodon accounts are actually posting, but the Mastodon interface kind of sucks, and I am not going anywhere yet.
You can make whatever interface you want for it.
Oh yeah, I could, but how are normal people going to do that?
They'll buy your interface on the App Store.
I don't think normal people quite understand how it works. So I'm not committing to any platform. Like I just backed away from that kind of social media. I'm going to let this dust settle.
The main bit.
Yep. So, but then there's all the ecosystem of indie creators who basically use Twitter for all their marketing because it's free. And they're all sticking around.
Typically, if you're a creator trying to market on the platforms, you're posting to all of them.
Yep.
Right?
The problem is a lot of them seem to get most of their traction from Twitter. But I think
everyone has a primary platform where they have most of their followers. It's going to be specific to them.
Yep.
If someone was someone who, had the biggest following on Twitter and now Twitter is failing, it's like, yeah, it hurts them.
Yep. And if your primary following is on Twitter, you got to do everything you can to build backup places for people to follow you and get them there.
I mean,
now
that's not different. That's just, that's how it's always been, right? People who I talked about this story so many times. The company where all the company did was make a Visual Studio plugin. And it's like the end game for them was either have Microsoft buy them or Microsoft add that feature to Visual Studio and their company goes out of business.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, if your business depends on someone else's business, you basically have to A, hope they don't fail, B, always stay in their good graces, right, etc. You should be building your business so that it can stand on its own feet. And if you're leaning on someone else and they fall down even through no fault of your own, well, I mean, I don't want to blame the victim, but that's just business.
But a thing I've noticed, a lot of younger people who have not been around. I mean, social media came into existence while we were already online. Like we have been online for the entirety of the existence of the concept of social media. Platforms, GeoCities, like AIM, everything, all the way back.
Or cut accounts, right?
On
Day one-ish, right?
So
I remember Facebook was a new thing. I had a Facebook account when it was college only.
By the time Facebook came out, I wasn't at college with a university email address anymore, and I couldn't sign up for it. I was working at IBM, and I didn't have access to my old RIT email anymore.
My Twitter account is 15 years old, right?
Yep. But I think a lot of younger people, or people who haven't been around this block, I think they radically underestimate how quickly a seemingly too big to fail platform can suddenly fail. Like, I don't think they realize how fast old platforms went from it'll last forever to there are 10 people left.
Well, I think we've gone through an extensive period. Like I said, the Twitter account is 15 years old, right? So we've gone through...
I've used it longer than any social media platform I have ever used.
All right. We've gone through a period where the platforms that are big now have had a staying power of some sort, even though I guess TikTok's new. But and whereas the period before then, they were coming up and going down like every few years, right? They were coming and going, right? And it's like I was always been of the opinion that Google can fail one day. It's like MySpace looked unassailable, right? All these things looked
LiveJournal looked unassailable.
Right. It's like it still exists, but it's small. It's right. But it's I don't believe that anything is unfailable, right? Facebook is dying. Twitter is dying. Right?
Yep.
TikTok can die. I even believe YouTube can die. I don't know what's going to happen when it does.
Yep. There's a reason I have a very large archive of everything I've ever uploaded to YouTube.
YouTube seems more invulnerable than anything that's ever been. I'm confident that YouTube will die within my lifetime. I don't know what it's going to look like.
One thing that I don't think could die is the technology part of Amazon. I feel like it's so important that if it died, a consortium would either buy it or the government would nationalize or something would happen. It would be too...
I'm talking about, the user-facing...
But like social media platforms, if YouTube disappeared tomorrow, like it died tomorrow instantly, I would not be as surprised as you would expect.
Yeah. So, people got to be prepared for that. Anyway.
Yeah. Put a little marker here. All right. But anyway, things of the day. So this is an algorithm that is actually near and dear to my heart for most of my life because I was into audio and audio engineering back in playing with reel-to-reels as a kid. So the fast Fourier transform is so important to audio that...
We've talked about it on Geek Nights many times.
Yeah, it is one of the most important algorithms of all time. It is used for everything. And Verisatium, I checked. I have not linked to them more than a handful of times over the long run of Geek Nights. So I'm linking to them now only because this video was so good. It is a half-hour long, and it is titled The Most Important Algorithm of All Time. and it talks about not just how fast Fourier transform works, where it came from, why it was so important compared to an actual Fourier transform, like doing the full transformation against a full data set. But it gets into things that you probably never even thought this algorithm was in any way related to. This is just a fantastic deep exploration of how important FFT is.
All right. So, talking about some ROMs, right? I don't know if anyone out there, the listener, has ever tried to play an arcade ROM in MAME. But unlike, say, you might dump, like an NES ROM, right? It comes out as one file, an NES file, and that's it, right? And even though the NES cartridge might have multiple ROM chips in it, you basically, you read out the whole cartridge, right?
Yeah.
That's it, But for MAME, right, an arcade machine, an old arcade machine is like a motherboard with a whole bunch of ROM chips on it, like integrated. It's not like there's some, I guess for Neo Geo, there's going to be a cartridge, right, I guess. But for other ones, not so much. So you basically have to pop out all those individual RAM chips and, their EEPROMs or whatever, and read them individually and make a binary file for each one, right? And it's like, I never really thought about like, what it looks like when you try to like rip, a ROM from an arcade board, right? So this person here, they happen to get an arcade board for a game called The Gladiator, some beat 'em up game. And just coincidentally, the board they had version 1.04 of the game. And it turns out that MAME, if you go to, they had version 1.07 and they had like version 1. But they didn't have any of these in-between versions. And they were like, oh, I got a version of an arcade machine that is not on MAME that they didn't know about, right? Let me rip it and upload it. And they had the hardware to do it. And I was like, oh, so that's what that looks like. And it worked.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So now if you come across an arcade machine, what you should do is check the version and then look on MAME and see if, that version is in the database. And if it's not, find someone who's got an EEPROM reader, preserve that slightly different version of the game. What I thought was really interesting is that like there were a few different EEPROM chips on the board that they had to rip, and all of them were basically identical to the ones that were already up there, except for one. So it was really just one chip had a different code on it that needed to be modified. So
in the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book is currently A Leaf the Unseen.
Oh, I wonder if I can even see this book.
I bought it.
Yeah, it's also, it's I guess it's what? It's a cyberpunk Middle Eastern deal. Rim selected it from two.
A Leaf the Unseen is a Middle Eastern.
Two choices of books from the same author who only has 2 books that aren't comic books.
A Middle Eastern cyberpunk adventure. I think, Scott, you wrote the words on our website. That description alone is enough to convince me to read it, and that is correct.
Well, yep. I think that's probably what made me add it to my wish list in the first place.
Yep.
Also, previous book club books, City We Became. Well, just like the other day, like maybe less than a week ago, the sequel book, World We Made, also by N.K. Jemisin, was released. So you can now read that book, although it is not the book club selection. We might do an episode on it that's not a book club episode. I
think it might be worth it. That series is very speaks to us, shall we say.
It's getting read, though.
Oh, absolutely. I gotta know what happens with that horrible island.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Otherwise, of course, I have just left Twitter entirely, but it underscores how deeply Twitter got its tentacles into everything, that the streaming template that the 14 people watching the stream are seeing still has both of our Twitter handles in it, despite the fact that I have literally deleted the Twitter app. I got to fix that at some point.
My handle is the same handle on every platform.
True. I don't actually use this handle on many places. I used this on Twitter a long goddamn time ago, but I actually go by GeekNights Rim or just Rim on most other platforms. Shazar is kind of a...
You should have gone by the same name everywhere. Then it's much easier.
Well, the problem is I tried to, but Thrill House was taken on most platforms.
That's not my fault.
Yep. So otherwise, if you have fled Twitter like us, the best place to talk to us is our own forum. The GeekNights forum is rocking, and I'm spending more time in there. It's a cool place. Also, there's a GeekNights Discord. There's cool people in there. Cool stuff happens in there. Otherwise, I don't know if email us. Like, email still works. email is adjacent to social media, and I still have a Google account, so I guess there's that.
Yeah. So, in the wake of Twitter dying, right, we have to discuss, what do we do now, right? And it's like, for GeekNight's entire existence, right, we've done a pretty good job of somewhat strictly following what's known as, well, I didn't realize it had a name. I was just following it without knowing it had a name.
Yep. Similarly, I always just thought of it as, why doesn't everyone do this? It makes sense.
Right. The way we used to do things, which is the POSSE model, right? And it's called POSSE because it stands for publish on your own site, POS, right? Syndicate elsewhere, SE, right? And the idea is you are going to put out something you've made onto the internet so that other people can see it, be it text, video, audio, video game, PDF file, whatever, some data. You want to put it out there in the world, right? So you could, and what people mostly do these days is go to a platform, right? Maybe it's a photo and they put it on some photo site like SmugMug or Flickr or Instagram. Maybe it's a video and they upload it to YouTube or Vimeo. Maybe it's a short text and they put it on Twitter or somewhere else like that if it still exists. Maybe it's a long text and they put it on, they have a blogger or the WordPress.com or, anywhere, right? This you can cross it all, they got a music and they put it on SoundCloud, right? And what inevitably happens is those places die, they shut down, they do copyright takedowns, they do, right? They delete accounts, people get banned, people, people get angry because their posts got blocked or people, it's like, yeah, you're posting on someone else's platform, right? They don't have no obligation to host you. They're doing it because they want to make money. And if they don't want you there, they kick your ass out.
Yep.
Right? You come over, I might invite you into my house. And if you behave poorly for any reason, I'll kick your ass out. Don't come back. That's how it works, right?
And Twitter is actually a place where I got very lazy about this because originally Twitter I treated as ephemeral media. I treated Twitter the same way I would treat like an IRC channel or like a chat on a Google something. Like I'd like to have an archive of it, but I didn't treat it as publishing content so much as like ephemerally having conversations online. But over time, me and many people evolved to creating primary content directly on Twitter. And I realized thinking about it now with this model, the only other time I've ever done that is when I briefly used Tumblr, and I made content on Tumblr, and I did not put it anywhere but Tumblr. And that Tumblr lasted about 20 posts before I gave up on it.
Right. So what we used to do back in the day, the POSSE model, is instead of publishing any of your shit on these other platforms and where it's subject to who knows what problems, right? You publish your shit on your own site. You make a website, a homepage. We called it homepages because that was your home on the internet. If anyone wanted to find your shit, they would had to come to you to find your shit that you published yourself. No one can take your shit down. It's your website, as long as your entire website isn't taken down by your hosting provider. Right?
Yep.
It's like, which is pretty rare, right? It's like, I'm sure even Nazis can, usually sometimes get away with hosting somewhere in some country, right?
Yep.
It's like, you're good. It's like, you don't have to worry about some YouTube copyright bullshit if you publish the videos on your own website. Someone could come and sue you directly, but that's probably not going to happen because how are they going to find your videos without you, right?
So imagine, I don't know, a long form content in a tweet, like a tweet thread or something. In the where we got lazy, I would just make a Twitter thread and that's it. That's the only place it exists. And then it gets taken down and I'm screwed. So instead, I post on my own site. Doesn't matter how. I could be a microblog. Who cares? I put that content here. frontrowcrew.com/blog, like Dvorak style.
There's some URL that is your URL, a URL that you control, where the official original version of that content is posted and always available as long as you can keep that website up. rim.com/rimstweet.
Yep. So then, how do people find it? Because a lot of the times, the reason people start using...
Let's talk about discovery later. Discovery is...
Well, in terms of syndicate elsewhere means I post here on my website, but I cross-post from my website to all the other places I want this content to appear, and more importantly, I link back to my own website.
If it's feasible.
Yeah,
to.
I mean, there's a lot of edge cases and like two-way communication and like reply. There's a lot of nuance we can get into, but the idea is my tweet.
Blog post.
Yep, my blog post is on my website. My blog post is also on Twitter with a link back to my website. My blog post is also, I don't know, on Instagram as a photo with a link back to my website. Let's say the tweet gets taken down. Well, people can still find the URL to my site and the Instagram.
It's on your Discord server. There's a link to your blog post. Maybe the entire text gets copied there in a special.
Worst
Discord
case, I make a torrent that with I make a distributed torrent that is just a URL linking to my post in a text file. Like there's ways to get it out there.
You still use other people are not going to necessarily know your website or come to it on purpose, right? They want to use the systems that they use. Maybe someone out there wants to use an RSS reader. Well, good, you have an RSS feed. Right? Whatever someone wants to use, you just make a link or a complete copy of your content with or without a link, right? And you post it on every other platform automatically, but your own website is the original source for that content, and you just keep it up and you don't let it go. And that's that. And that's the way GeekNights has always done it. We posted all of our content and podcasts on our website that no one goes to.
Every URL, thanks to a lot of hard work by Scott, is still valid to this day.
Yeah, that's part of the new website trouble, trying to keep all these URLs working.
I mean, what, 95% of all our thing of the day links are broken?
Yeah, we're working on that too.
Yep. But you know who else did this very well? The same model. They followed it up until they didn't, and them not doing it destroyed them. College Humor. College Humor followed that model religiously, and I credit that as a big part of their success. Screw Attack originally was like that too, but then in the pivot to video, they ended up putting their content primarily on platforms, and then those platforms fucked them over, but they'd already sent their audience to those platforms, so no one even knew to go back to their website, and they were done.
Yep. So this is basically, if you're a publisher of content, this is the right way to do things. If you're a reader of content, well, now we have problems, right? Because who's going to actually go to all these different fucking websites, right? It's like, if you think about all the stuff that you're looking at on your feeds that are automatically collated for you, right? It's like, unless all these websites out there make RSS feeds the right way, and even then, it's like, you're not going to be able to go and collect all of these into one place to read them all easily, right? So I guess you're just hoping that people all use, if you pick your platform of, say, Instagram, and you hope that everyone you care about following is cross-posting there automatically somehow. It becomes a huge pain. Visiting websites is time-consuming. I remember I tried webcomics back in the day. Webcomics are the ultimate at following the POSSE model. They almost they were pretty much all of them posted on their own site and syndicated elsewhere until the past, few years they started posting only on, the platforms directly.
Yep.
Right? But it's like, there were people who try to make webcomic aggregators because the webcomics are really bad about making it easy to read all the webcomics at once. And now you've got shit like Webtoon, and it's like people just post a comic on Webtoon, and if something happens to Webtoon, all those comics are gone.
I think a lot of that pressure, again, is late capitalist hell. Why did people shut down RSS feeds? Why did RSS feeds as we knew them back in the day mostly die? Because if anyone looks at your content via an RSS feed, they didn't see the ads that you were using to make money, because no one has any other way to make money with anything online.
Yep. That was that. People blame the death of Google Reader as the death of RSS, and it's like, no, there were still plenty of other reader softwares available at the time, right? The death of RSS was because there was other ways to get a feed of data that appeared. When did Google Reader shut down?
I would argue that the death of that kind of syndication as platforms move toward aggressive ad monetization is why Google Reader died, and not the other way around.
Yeah, Google Reader ended in 2013.
Oh my God, I just turned into a skeleton hearing that year.
Right. Twitter started in 2006, right?
And remember, for the first couple of years, it was SMS only, and there was an iOS app that kind of worked, and that was it. Didn't even work on Android yet.
the point is, by 2013, right? What was it that killed Google Reader? It wasn't, right? It wasn't the fact that, Google, like RSS didn't die because Google Reader shut down.
Yep.
They shut down Google Reader because Twitter was here, right?
Yep.
That's why.
There was nothing for any RSS feed aggregator to look at anymore. Like, everyone shut down their RSS feeds, or they reduced their RSS feeds to contentless links back to the platform they posted to.
Yep.
Which I guess you could have web scraped, but
I suppose. I mean, there are still RSS readers out there. I still use one. It still works, right? But you can't. Some of them let you incorporate, Twitters and Reddits and all these sorts of things.
I feel like we did a Geek Nights episode when Google Reader died, explaining that Google Reader did not kill RSS by dying. Google did not kill RSS. Capitalism did. But that episode was probably a long time ago.
Well, the other thing is that, if your people post on the platforms, right? It's like, well, the platforms aren't going to make RSS because then they lose all their value, right?
Yep.
It's like, why would anyone go to Twitter if Twitter had an RSS feed for every single Twitter account?
I would literally just have an ad-free RSS feed interlinking Twitter with all the other shit I read. I wouldn't even know that content came from Twitter.
Then all the if there's RSS or anything like it, all the platforms just become dumb pipes. They don't have any way to make money or extract value or anything. They're just dumb pipes sending feeds of data, between people's. Everyone would choose whatever client software for reading they like the most, and choose whatever software they like for publishing the most, and publish anywhere and read anywhere, and all the different services would just be, funneling that data around, and that would be it. And they don't want that to happen, right? That's why they won't let everyone use the Twitter API unlimitedly, even though it's like, well, why not? Even if the only functions I could do with the Twitter API are the same functions that I could do with a Twitter client, they can't allow that because being able to automate those functions means I don't have to go to the Twitter website or see the ads or et cetera, et cetera.
Right?
Anyway, so I think the thing is, if the whole world were to do everything the way we say, right, with a POSSE model, right, first of all the services become dumb pipes, like we just said, right? But the real problem is discoverability, right? So it's like, okay, if you stick with one platform, right, the platforms have many ways to sort of oversolve the problem of discovery, right?
I would say that it's not even oversolving. The platforms have a vested interest in keeping you on the platform and tailoring the platform to you to make sure you never go to any other platforms.
Right. So it's like if you go to Twitter, they start suggesting people to follow, and YouTube is showing you videos from channels that you don't subscribe to, and they're trying to get you to put your contacts in to help you find your friends, and they're showing tweets your friends liked or tweets your friends retweeted, or they're always trying to show you some kind of content that isn't just the content you follow explicitly and nothing else, which is what RSS does.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it's hard not to discover new content because it's just being shoved in your face, because that's how they keep you there. That's how they make money, right? If everyone has just got their own websites, right? Forget the problem of the technical difficulties of normal people not being able to host their own websites, right? It's like, how do you find shit? Well, Google is how you find shit.
Or I could see, one, we would have an industry arise around curation. People would seek out the people who were good at telling them what to look at. And two,
I don't think so, because that would have happened back in the day, and it didn't.
I saw it happen. I also think you would see companies could try to make meta algorithms that try to find good content across all the platforms for target audiences, and probably charge subscription fees for that.
But I think the real end result is a good result, which is that, discovering new things would mean explicit effort on the part of the reader,
as opposed to advertising or other push-based things intruding. In
order for your feed to get more full of data, you would have to go out and explicitly find a thing that you liked and intentionally and purposefully say, I want to see more of that and that only, and then you would see more of that and that only, and giving us, the pull instead of the push. No one's pushing content on you. You are choosing what to see and not seeing anything else.
Yep.
Right? And therefore, you're seeing less. Everyone would be seeing less, a lot less, spending a lot less time doom scrolling on their phone, spending a lot less time reading fake news or whatever other nonsense, right? It would just be better, right? We're reading too much shit. It's like I've gone through, even before all these, collapses that are happening. I went through all of my, social, platform things. I deleted / uninstalled several of them.
Yep,
right?
I did. I would like semi-annually do a big purge of all the things I followed, all the things I used. I would delete apps.
All the ones that I kept using. I'm still got Twitter here. I unfollowed like 33% of the people I was following on Twitter, and then I unfollowed again 33% more. It's like
I straight up deleted the Twitter app, but
this was a while ago.
Yeah, but now like everyone, like once a day I look at it, but like I'm dropping other platforms too, not just Twitter. Even though there's nothing wrong with those platforms, they're not really doing anything useful for me.
Right. There were people that I was following, and I looked and I said, I see that person. I did follow them with intent. Yes, I enjoy what that person does.
I like that person.
I like that person. And then I look at the content that they're putting into the feed, and I'm like, is this content that they're putting into the feed? Is this really, do I need this in my life? Am I personally getting value? Even if I love this person, am I getting value from this information? Is this information that I need to know, right? That helps me in my life, that's important, right? Is it even
Yep. Like it could be, do I want to know? Does it make me smile? Does it make me smile enough? Like there's a lot there.
It's like a lot of it, it's like, yeah, it may have at one point, but it doesn't anymore. It's like, why am I spending time in my short life on it? Get it out of here, right? It's like, sorry, bye. And I think a lot of people are not doing this, but a change of, the dynamics of the platforms could force people to do that, and it would be better for a lot of people, right? Probably improve the world this way. So, yeah, if you're publishing, I highly recommend, right, following the POSSE model that GeekNights has mostly strictly followed to its benefit, because it's not suffering at all. And personally, I did not follow strictly enough, but now, having learned the lesson of being alive to see so many platforms fail, I will now follow. I'm going to work towards following that policy very strictly with myself personally and with GeekNights for the rest of my life. And it won't matter to me when platforms come and go.
I think for both of us,
indicating to them or not.
Twitter was the one we both got the laxest with. Like that was the one. Tumblr, couple dozen posts is all I made there. That's no big loss.
But yeah, and then if you're a reader, right, what I would suggest you do is, you're going to have to choose, for yourself, right? Which platform is the one that has the most nicest reading experience for you? Or, think about who you're going to follow. Don't worry about what platform they're on. Think about who and what you really care about that's really important in your life that you need to follow and know about. And then, you're going to have to find some balance between, seeing where those people or organizations or groups are publishing and syndicating to, and, what platforms you're willing to participate in order to get at what they're publishing. And maybe you have to miss some people that you care about. Maybe you have to add a platform that you read from that you don't really like, but the people you care about are on there. And, hopefully enough people that you follow will follow the POSSE model, right?
Yep.
And will publish and syndicate to enough platforms to give, that's like, I'm just publishing to all these platforms, at least ones I find acceptable. It's like, I'm going to give the people who care to hear what I have to say as much choice as I can give them in terms of, how they want to follow me. And then, it'll be up to them. And I think it's like, I don't want, a lot of people out there are trying to get followers, right? It's like, I don't think that's not going to work. And that's good. I think that's not going to work, right? It's like, I only want someone following me if for some reason can't explain, they really, really enjoy hearing what I have to say.
Yep. But this will have a lot of consequences that are probably unavoidable. For example, a lot of indie creators reach their audiences by putting their links to their store interleaved with their regular social media content. But a lot of people in the post-Twitter world might just decide they don't want to see the store links, so they just won't see that person's content anymore. I think we're going to see a lot of This is going to be a very big impact on how people use the internet over the coming year.
Yeah, it's like if you're...
It's the biggest platform to fail in a long time.
We talked about that, I said the Visual Studio plugin story.
Yep.
Right? It's like, yeah, if you were depending on platforms that are failing to make your monies, and those platforms are failing, it's like, yeah, that's what happens. It sucks because most of those creators are decent people doing good works, right? And they're gonna make less monies just because the place that they were using to publish about themselves was failing. But
it implies something
if
strange.
Goes down if
it implies something that we've talked about when we've talked about advertising many times over the years. There are a lot of people who, if they are presented with like an ad, even if it's a subtle ad, like a friend posting in their stream to a store link or something they can buy, they might just buy it. Whereas if that had not been pushed in front of them, they would not have sought it out and bought it on their own. That sale was predicated on putting it in front of them against their sort of explicit intention to see it.
Exactly, right? If you made, for example, let's say indie video games, right?
Yep.
So it's like you go to itch.io, and I guess itch.io does sort of try to suggest games to you.
I mean, Steam tries to suggest games to me.
Sure, but let's imagine, an itch.io equivalent, right? Where you only see games from people you follow, and that's it, right? And so it's like, you're only going to buy a game if you are somebody who cares enough to even go to this website. You care enough about playing and buying indie games that you're going to become a member of this indie game specific site, right? You're going to follow people so that you learned about somehow, right? That you like them enough that you've sought them out and clicked a follow button, and you visit the website enough and frequently enough. And on top of that, the thing they make has to catch your eye in your feed and make you want to buy it enough, right? Whereas, it's like that's sort of actually the right way that things should be done. You shouldn't be buying something unless you really care about it to that extent,
Yep.
But the way things are now, it's like, okay, you live your life on Twitter where there are many people that, you're following for various reasons, right? Some of them might retweet shit from someone you don't even follow, right? And you're following that person. Maybe, they that's a person that using my requirements, I wouldn't even follow them. And so they retweet something that gets in the feed, and there it is along with everything else, and it catches your eye, and you end up buying it. It's like, maybe that was a valuable thing, right? Maybe you did discover something you never knew about, and that brought, improved your life and brought you joy, and you wouldn't have had it without this, right? And that's a good thing, right? But maybe because of, you ended up buying something because, ads work in human psychology, and this thing popped up and, took your money, impulse buy, and it sat on your shelf and you never cared about it. It was just there. Right. And it's like, you shouldn't have bought that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's, and then, so I think, will the world be better, with the more stable, only buying things that it's bad for the economy. That's for sure. Overall.
Yeah. I mean, capitalism as it is one of the underlying causes of us even having this entire conversation today.
Well, it's it's the cause of everything.
Yep.
And if the society is capitalist, then yes, everything is capitalist.
All this implies to me is you should probably play Disco Elysium. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I'm tired of people trying to push on me what content I should be playing.
I'm
not pushing on you.
Yeah, you are all the time.
If I want to play something, I'll explicitly go and follow the company that makes that.
Yeah.
And then I'll decide for myself if I like what I see.
Well, I bought it because it was on like crazy super sale, and I'd been wanting to buy it for a long time.
So something got popped up in the feed.
Well, no, and I had already wanted to buy it. I had chosen, I want to play this game, but it costs more money than I was willing to pay because, we're both following the rule of never buy a game on Steam unless you're going to play it right the fuck now.
I'm just trying to tie into the real world example. All right.
Speaking of tying into the real world, right now is where the ad read would happen in a normal podcast, but we don't do that shit, and I'm hungry, so I think we should end the show.
That sounds good.